Hello and welcome to my little bookish corner of the internet. My name's Harriet. Today I'm going to be doing my review for A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. Now I've already read this book before. I read it last year and it ended up being one of my absolute favourites of the year and a potential all-time favourite, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to reread it to make sure that I know it's a favourite. So I reread it with Mishelle, whose channel I'll link down below. We had a really fun time with it. I had such a blast seeing someone else read it for the first time, and for me to kind of take those feelings off that person and mix them with my own and all the thoughts, collate them all together, and it was just a really lovely experience. So I'm very happy that we've done that. I think we're going to be continuing reading the series in the new year. I've got too many books to read in December to think about doing it now. But yeah, so that would be really fun. But I wanted to come outside today to film this review because when I was reading the book, I very much thought to myself, this is a book that I want to read when the season's changing. It's getting a little bit colder, obviously all the leaves are falling and you can just feel a change in the air, especially in the UK. It's definitely getting a lot colder now, but I felt like it was appropriate to come outside because this book focuses in, there's a little flock of crows. It's called a murder of crows, isn't it? Sorry, not a flock. Yeah, sorry. This book touches a lot on the balance of things, so between nature and mankind, or wizard kind. So I'll talk about that a bit more in a second, but yeah, I felt like it was very appropriate to come out here and film this today. And it's a really lovely day. It's stopped raining, it's not too cold out, like it's definitely jacket weather and jumper weather, but it's not freezing cold, so I appreciate that. But yeah, let's get started with the review. So if you didn't already know what Wizard of Earthsea is about, we are basically following a young man called Ged, and when he's a child, he discovers that he actually has got magical abilities, and this is very common in the land of Earthsea. You'll usually have a mage on an island and they take care of all of the people that live on the island and kind of look after them and solve any problems that they might have with magic. And then you do also get witches in there as well, although women's magic is seen as something that's not very understood and is therefore feared. I honestly cannot remember if that is touched on more in the later books, but it's certainly not really touched on in this first one, so I won't talk too much about that. But yeah, magic is definitely a big thing in this series. So we're following this young man called Ged and what happens when he discovers these magical abilities, and following him going to the school, which is on Rokes. It's a school for magic, specifically for wizards, and they get trained up there and then eventually they get taken to a place that they can look after. And we're following what happens to Ged when he does that, and there's also events that occur that definitely change the course of his journey and the things that he goes through, and it allows for a lot of character development as well. So when we first start the book, Ged is very young, he's very inexperienced, and he's also extremely full of himself. So he's a character that you do not like when you start reading the book. But as you go through, the things that happen to him do change him as a person, as with everyone, and I feel like that made him very realistic because he was having these actual changes within himself, his personality, and just who he was as a person, and that happens with everyone. I mean, we are all completely different to what we were when we were kids or teenagers. I know I certainly am a lot different to what I used to be, and that's all down to the experiences that we have as people. So it felt extremely realistic, and yeah, I could just relate to that a lot. And then I do end up, of course, loving Ged as a character. I think he's wonderful. So yeah, character development is brilliant. We are mainly just following this one character, but we do get to meet other characters that he talks to and that he's friends with or enemies with. So that's super cool. Ursula's very good at writing very realistic characters. And then in terms of the magic system, it's something that I feel like has been done a couple times since. I don't know if it is the first. This is something that me and Mishelle were talking about. I'm not sure if Le Guin came up with it or not. But it's basically to do with the true names of things, and if you call something by its true name, you have potentially got power over it. But it very much focuses in on what happens when you use that power and whether that's going to affect the balance of things. So that's why I thought it was appropriate to come outside, because it's very heavily focused in on nature and how what we do affects nature and also just affects the course of time and the lands around Earthsea and people as well. So it affects everything, and magic should not be used very lightly. But to give you an example, if you were to have power over the wind, so you're sailing on a boat and you want to put a mage wind into the sails, or there's a storm coming and you don't want the storm, you can get rid of that storm, but that is always going to go somewhere else. It doesn't just disappear. That's not how it works. You have power over the storm to go somewhere, but that's always going to go somewhere, and it could affect people on different islands or people on different ships and things like that. So there's always a knock-on effect, and that's something that Ged has to learn and I think that really helps with his character development as well. So I think that's all I can really tell you in terms of plot. Just overall, I think it's a really beautifully written story. It was written for children, so it's a very easy read, and my edition is like 166 pages, so it's super short. But it just gave me such great feelings, and it made me feel very cozy. I know I overuse that word a lot, I'm so sorry, but it's true. Like, it made me feel really nice and warm and fuzzy on the inside, and it's just such an easy read, but it really sucks you in and makes you really appreciate Le Guin's ability to write such beautiful characters and such beautiful worlds. And I mean, there's maps in the books, so it's like a proper fantasy setting, and it's just great. I just had the best time with it. I remember really loving it, of course, it was only a year ago, but I feel like now I've reread it, it's firm in my mind that this is one of my absolute all-time favourite books ever. So yeah, I feel like if you like books like the Harry Potter series, or even things like Magician, which I'm currently reading, or say you're not really into super high fantasy, maybe you've read things like Narnia, or you've read like the Grimm's Brother Tales, I feel like you would really love this book, and I definitely recommend checking it out. I mean, even if you just go for the first one to start with, you don't read the whole series, I would really love to hear your thoughts if you do read it, because I feel like everyone should try out this book. It is just incredible. It's such a journey, and I had the best time with it. So yeah, nothing but praise from me as per usual with Le Guin, but that is my review for today. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely let me know down below whether you've read this or if you think you might read it. But that is it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.